Welcome to the Gavel. I'm Terry Kumi. Well, let's begin with the Senate. This is perhaps the most popular sentence this past week. We are not criminals or thieves. We are faithful and have nothing to do with the sabotage of the nation's economy. This was said by Mr. Kyari, the Group Chief Executive Officer of the NNPCL, when he appeared before the Senate Ad Hoc Committee, which is investigating alleged economic sabotage in the petroleum industry in Nigeria. The chairman of the committee, Senator Kwemi Bamidele, during the interaction also asserted that no one will be exempted from scrutiny in the ongoing investigation. Here's a detailed report of that meeting, which also had other stakeholders in attendance.
Stakeholders in the oil and gas industry, as well as members of the Executive Council, appear before a Senate ad hoc committee investigating alleged economic sabotage as the maiden interactive session commences.
The distinguished chairman to then come to the podium.
The leader of the Senate, who doubles as the chairman, sets the tone, making clear that no one is on trial.
Specifically, the Federal Executive Council approved $1.5 billion for the turnaround maintenance of the Port Harcourt refinery. Yet, this investment has not yielded significant returns. For us in the Senate, and of course now in the National Assembly, we believe it is unfair and unpatriotic to treat government business as an orphan while private businesses are flourishing.
Ministers in this session, which precedes a public hearing, vows to tender every necessary information required for a successful probe.
We're also committed to supporting Dangote refinery. We are committed to supporting the modular refineries. And we have been resolving whatever issues that are brought to our attention, from time to time. Let me, Mr. Chairman, conclude by expressing my gratitude to you and also, to reaffirm our commitment to cooperating with you, to ensure that the truth is unraveled. I believe that it is important that the Senate, ensure that we do a live broadcast.
We must seize this opportunity. Amongst other things, we must seize this opportunity to maximize the whole oil and gas sector value chain. And that's why we are here to discuss what it will take to get us really moving and maximizing.
Visibly disturbed over what he describes as frequent media attacks on his person, the NNPCL Group CEO absolves the company over allegations of theft or national economic sabotage.
NNPC has nothing to do with imports of products that are substandard. It is very clear, Mr. Chairman. There are rules, there are regulators. We follow the rules. Nobody will bring product into this country that doesn't make specifications. If it does happen, it's crime. It couldn't have passed through any regulatory institution. It is impossible. We all know what happens. Smuggling does take place. And I'm happy that the Customs Service is here. No one can deny that smuggling takes place across our border, but for PMS and every other commodity that you can think of. This is real. Mr. Chairman, when the details come, we will tell you what we know. For me and my colleagues in the NNPC, even by conviction of faith, Mr. Chairman, we will do nothing. We believe there is eternal accountability, Mr. Chairman. Even if you don't unravel what is happening, we know that God knows. And that God will hold us accountable. And we're after no one. We are persecuting nobody. We are not criminals. We are not thieves. We are serving our country, and we believe very, very strongly that we're faithful, loyal to this country. The oil and gas industry is bleeding, Mr. Chairman. We can't speak. There are things we know we don't say, and that's why I agree with the Honorable Minister that even the things we won't say, we'll say them when the right time comes. That this country is bigger and greater than all of us, and we serve it. And Mr. Chairman, I confirm to you that the NNPC Limited will cooperate with this committee, will be part of the solution, will not be part of a problem.
In the no-holds-barred session, other stakeholders quickly bare their minds.
Just like the Honorable Minister has said, it is an opportunity for Nigerians to hear from the side of not only Farouk Ahmed, but NNDPRA. So I actually am happy, I'm pleased and elated that the hearing will be made public and live on TV because we have been unfairly treated, not only by the Nigerian press, but the very senior Nigerians, very high, of high places, because of misinformation. Obviously, it's not their fault.
IPMAN that have the retail outlet should not be distorted by allowing monopoly to set in. Before I go ahead, I would like to make it clear that IPMAN appreciate our long-standing relationship with the NNPCL. Let me also acknowledge that the NNPCL is currently doing her best to allocate IPMAN products to IPMAN through NIFCO PLC, but the products are grossly inadequate.
We just basically have three questions that we think we should look at by the committee and also as Nigerians. The first question is, do local refineries deserve protection from dumping? That's the first question. Second question is, should Nigeria protect its infant industries in order to encourage investment? And then the third question is, should local refineries have preferential access to Nigerian crude? Those really are our questions that we want this committee to consider. On the first one, as I've said, we've produced 5 million tons of products, but of those 5 million tons, about 90% of it had to be exported. While at the same time, products we were producing are being re-imported into Nigeria. We find ourselves competing against Russian products that are being produced with oil that is valued at $60. We all know that because of the cap that has been put on Russian oil, the value of Russian oil today in the market is $60.
In forging a way forward, the Senate Ad Hoc Committee has given stakeholders a few weeks to tender their documents, assuring that this investigation under the 10th Assembly will not be business as usual, as it fixes September 10 to 12, 2024 for a public hearing.
With the rotten oil and gas sector and numerous National Assembly probes, hopefully this is different. Also, the House of Representatives is investigating as well. In fact, amid refuted rumors of bribery between the chairman of the Petroleum Downstream Committee and the Speaker of the House, a new ad hoc committee is being set up to take over the investigation. In a statement signed by the spokesperson of the House, Honorable Akin Rotimi, he explains that the decision is to ensure efficacy, independence, and effectiveness of the investigation. He also debunks allegations of a rift between the Speaker and the Deputy Speaker, as well as allegations that there was an inducement for appointment of a committee chairman. Well, speaking of the House, the Committee on Federal Polytechnics and Higher Technical Education held a public hearing on bills to establish vocational training centers in Kano and a National Commission for Polytechnics. Here's how that went. 3 bills were in focus during the public hearing by the House Committee on Federal Polytechnics and Higher Technical Education. They included a proposal to establish a Vocational and Entrepreneurship Institute in Lagos State, a Federal Vocational and Skills Acquisition College in Kano State, and the creation of the National Polytechnics Commission. Lawmakers emphasized the need for improvement in the socio-economic development of the country.
We recognize that in the increasing competitive global environment, it is imperative that we equip our youth with relevant skill and knowledge. The proposed agency and institution will serve as a beacon of excellence, providing qualitative education that meet international standards while also tailoring to meet our local needs. In the recent years, there has been an increased recognition of critical role that technical and vocational education will play in nation development. Nigeria will not be left out. It is no longer sufficient for educational institutions to be mere impact theoretical knowledge, and we must equip our youth with practical skills that will enable them to strive in ever-evolving job markets globally.
As I welcome you all to facilitate the process of the passage of these important bills into law, it should be noted that each of the bills is tailored towards enacting laws that would bring about much needed improvement in the socio-economic development of the country and invariably promote our quest for sustainable human capital development required for self-reliant society. Honorable colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, as you may be aware, the objectives of this establishing vocational entrepreneurship and skill acquisition institution in Nigeria is to train technicians and middle-level personnel that would serve as catalysts for a rapid industrialization and development of the real sector of the economy.
Stakeholders harp on the need to properly streamline vocational skills in the nation's education system, while also expressing concerns over discrimination faced by polytechnic lecturers.
I therefore convey to you the Ministry's full support for the 3 bills. And I also want to offer to you what the Minister has asked me to convey, that the Ministry is available if there are some minor tweaks, minor fine-tunings to be done on the 3 bills. The Ministry is ready to provide the technical support to fine-tune and conclude the bills anytime you are ready.
If Nigeria had positioned its skills agenda 20, 30 years ago, nobody will be demonstrating on the streets, as we have seen in the last few days. People would have been properly upskilled. There are a lot of opportunities locally and globally for skills, but Nigerian youth are there roaming about, crossing the Sahara with a lot of danger, dying in the Mediterranean Sea. So this vocational training institutes is a very positive move, and I am very hopeful that other states will also require to have their own, because this can be seen as another layer of tertiary pivot education.
Polytechnics are very well known in promotion innovation, but these days, honestly, we are doing less on that because we are not having the commission on ground to spearhead, this kind of very important mandate of the Polytechnic. Then lastly, but not at least, Mr. Chairman, is that this Polytechnic Commission is established, if established, will address the issues of dichotomy and the stigma attached to the Polytechnic education. In fact, anytime we mention this, mostly people's mind will even go to all the students that graduates of Polytechnic, they are being discriminated against. But I want to tell this Honorable House that even we, their lecturers, we are not safe from that discrimination.
By establishing this school in a place like Oshodi that has steaming and bubbling youths, at this time, will help calm social restiveness. It will bridge also the skills gap between knowledge and entrepreneurship. At this time also, it will empower the youths in Oshodi. Being the heartbeat of Lagos, being a very, very strong place, the establishment of this school at this time will calm social restiveness. It will also empower the youths economically so that they can contribute to the local economy.
Meanwhile, a member of the House of Representatives from Ekiti State is appealing to Nigerians to be patient with President Bola Tinubu. Speaking on the heels of protests across the country, which is due to economic hardship, the lawmaker expressed confidence in the government to steer the country to prosperity. He urges Nigerians to embrace dialogue as a means of addressing their concerns rather than protests.
Bad government has been in Nigeria for time immemorial, but it's the constitutional duty of the citizen to also protest if they feel that the government is not doing what they are supposed to do. But as it is, this government is very new, and considering the level of decade inherited by the government. Like they said government is continuous, we all know. But if you inherit a bad structure, it will take a while for you to repair it and make it stand solid. And as regards the youth that are protesting, I will visit them and advise and also beg them to please dialogue. I want our youth to also consider that olive branch that the president has offered them, that they should come to table for dialogue. So whatever demand they have, they can table it before the government. The one the government can do immediately, they will offer it. The one they can do in a long time process, they will also let them know.
Now, this week on The Breakdown with the Policy and Legal Advocacy Center plaque, the Executive Director, Mr. Clement Wankwo, speaks on the death penalty punishment for drug peddlers and smugglers being considered by the Senate as part of the amendment to the NDLEA Act. Take a listen.
bill before the National Assembly at this time is the NDLEA Amendment Act 2023, which the NDLEA is proposing, among other things, the need for harsher punishment on the question of drug trafficking. We do know that this is a major issue, and Nigeria, as with the rest of the world, we're very concerned about the issue of drug trafficking and the need for punishment to ensure that people are deterred. I think, though, that the most important thing is to be able to prevent people from having the incentive to transport drugs. And the best way to do it is to ensure that you have very good law enforcement, a very good apprehension system. People are not going to be deterred from drug trafficking simply because of the punishment. We did see under the military dictatorship that this country went through that some of the harshest punishments were prescribed for some offenses under what was called the Miscellaneous Offenses Decree number 3 of 1984, promulgated by General Muhammadu Buhari, and yet people still carried out offenses. Under criminal law jurisprudence understanding, it is not the harshness of an offense that prevents people, because indeed, when it is so very harsh, people develop a means of compromise and enforcement of the law, and you find that even law enforcement has incentive to compromise, because personally, some may not want to see such harsh punishments imposed. The House of Representatives has passed the amendments to this bill that imposes a life sentence. The Senate has, however, imposed the punishment of death, which is extremely harsh. And we have seen under criminal law jurisprudence, dating hundreds of years ago, that sometimes people could be found guilty of an offense that they didn't commit. We've seen that in places where people have been officially pardoned because evidence emerged over time that they didn't commit the offense. And Nigeria has had instances where it has had its citizens arrested abroad in some countries where there are extreme punishments. And you can talk of Saudi Arabia, you can talk of Thailand and the rest of them. Nigeria has had cause to send diplomatic representation to negotiate the release of some of the citizens who were in the death row for drug trafficking. It is very retrogressive in the 21st century to be talking of death penalty for any offense at all. So I believe that the National Assembly will be making a very serious mistake. It will be denting itself by imposing death penalty in this offense as described in the NDLEA Amendment Bill. We know that a conference committee has been set up between the House and Senate to harmonize this bill. We would urge the conference committee to proceed in adopting the position of the House of Representatives, which is the position that imposes the life imprisonment, rather than the Senate's position that imposes the death penalty. Internationally, this will be perceived as very odious, even in countries which have very serious drug problems, whether it is the United Kingdom, the United States, and Canada, advanced countries. The search is for finding the best punishments to give. Most of these countries have completely, the UK has completely abrogated the death penalty, and in most states in the US, it's been abrogated as well. International organizations, including even Nigerian organizations, and PLAC's position is that the death penalty should be removed from our law books, from our criminal jurisprudence. Amnesty International has campaigned as a major objective the abolition of the death penalty. So we believe that it is very retrogressive for any law in Nigeria's statute books to be proposing or even to continue to exist that prescribes death penalty for any offense at all.
And on Constituency Focus this week, we had a chat with Honorable Esosa Yawe, member representing Oredo Federal Constituency of Edo State in the House of Representatives, to find out how he intends to engage with members of his constituency in the next 3.5 years, what are the needs of his people, and how he intends to meet these needs.
My constituency is in the metropolitan part of Edo State, and I can say the people in Oredo Federal Constituency, majority of the needs that they want is empowerment. They need empowerment and security. Empowerment, I have a couple of things in my manifesto, which when I was campaigning, I tend to empower market women and the youth in my constituency. And when it comes to security, I am for community policing and the vigilante forces in Edo State and Oredo, to be specific. I tend to set up welfare programs for them and make them feel secured when it comes to doing their activities. I've already started implementing some of my empowerment programs. I tend to complete that in my 100 days in office. There are some programs I've set up, and very soon it will be aired and it will reach the people of my constituency. And one major thing I tend to do to reach the people in my constituency is constantly doing arrangements for town hall meetings where people will come and exchange ideas and complaints, whatever they have within the Oredo Federal Constituency. And with the help of God and my colleagues, we tend to pass bills and move motions that will effect the change within the coming years. My constituency office has already been set up, but is undergoing innovation. And again, as I said, a couple of things I tend to do majorly is empowerment of the youths in my constituency, because majority of them now currently do not believe in passing through schools. They believe in working and earning a living. I tend to set up numerous skill acquisition programs within my constituency office. So my constituency office is going to be a functional constituency office within the next 4 years, where the doors will be open for anybody to come in and drop their CVs, resumes, where I can still help them search for jobs, while they undergo skill acquisition, which will be for free. And at the end of the day, they will be empowered. Numerous bills that I have in mind that the Night Assembly failed to pass, especially when it comes to voting. The Electoral Act needs to be assented with this bill, and it is people in diaspora to be able to vote, because a lot of people relocate out of the country because of hardship, and while they're out of the country, they still have Nigeria in their mind and their hearts. So they should be able to contribute to who we elect as leaders and legislators in our country while they're abroad. There are programs that I tend to pass in the 10th Assembly, and I hope the motion of bill moved in the 9th Assembly would be assented and carried by the 10th Assembly. Another motion which I've already moved is to revive the Gelegele seaport in Edo State, which would be a very good source of income for the people of Edo State, and at the same time, source of revenue for the federal government. And I would also encourage the federal government at some point during my tenure to open up other seaports in the country where trade and investments can flow.
Well, that's The Gavel this week. Thanks for your time. I'm Terry Kumi. Send feedback to The Gavel at channelstv.com. Goodbye.